something that requires students to give products, to give lengthy answers. And all relevant answers are correct as long as they are right, relevant, and functional. Okay? So this is number one. So it is the type of assessment that requires learners to create lengthy answers or products, written or spoken, by accomplishing an authentic and significant task communicatively as evidence of the learning, which means knowledge and skills. Is it clear? So it may be in a form of essay writing. This is lengthy answer. It's not multiple choice. It could be a monologue. It could be a role play. It could be a dialogue. All these tasks that require students to create lengthy products or lengthy answers could be named or labeled as task-based assessment. Is it clear? Okay. Now, the components of task-based assessment is simply we have an activity and we have some scores. And a task simply is an activity with a score. And the scores are in a form of what we call a rubric. Is it clear? So these are the components of a task-based assessment. We need a task, and we need a rubric to assess the task and give scores. Okay? The activity or the task should be meaningful, should be communicative, and should be in relation to an outcome or a group of outcomes. So once I have a meaningful activity which is real, authentic, etc., and it's communicative, I mean it focuses on meaning exchange. We do not care about grammar, linguistic features, etc. We focus more on how to communicate clearly. And finally, we have, of course, an outcome because at the end of the day, it's something related to learning. And as I have just said, we need some scores to assess the activity and the products of students. So the rubric consists of some criteria, and the criteria are the features that I'd like to focus on. For example, grammar, for example, discourse markers, vocabulary range and control, etc. And I need some performance levels. Excellent, needs improvement, very good. And finally, I need some descriptions, and we will talk about the descriptions at the end of this presentation. And now, any quality assessment should be labeled by three basic principles, three basic concepts. One's called validity, the other reliability, and the third is fairness. Can you tell me what is validity? What is validity? Can you? Please. Yes.
Okay, so validity is making sure that our exams are valid, that they can be used by many students, and that they can actually understand the components of the exam and can respond to it. And they actually are aligned to the curriculum we have. Okay, so the test items themselves to be valid for students to answer.
Yeah,
or so I think.
Thank you very much. Any other suggestion? Okay, validity, which means in Arabic المصداقية أو صدق الاختبار, simply means that the scores we have are accurate in reflecting the ability that I'd like to assess. Simply, how the scores I get are accurate in reflection of the ability or the performance of students that I'd like to assess. The more accurate the scores we have, the more valid the task or assessment we get, and the more accurate picture about students' performance we have. Okay? So this is the meaning of validity. Can you tell me something about reliability? Reliability. Okay. Reliability simply means the repeatability of the scores or the consistency of the scores. I mean, if I give a student a task and he or she gets, for example, 6 out of 10, and the second time they get 1 out of 10, so something is wrong. We have a problem. But if the students get 6 each time we repeat the test, or each time we repeat the task, now the test is called reliable. I can rely on the scores in reflecting our students' ability. Is it clear? And finally, fairness, which means that nothing affects students' scores except their performance. So no gender bias, religion bias, no identity bias, etc. What affects your scores is your performance. Is it clear? Okay. So these three principles are very essential for any quality assessment. If we don't know about these three quality principles, we have something wrong. Yes, please. Would you please say more?
Fairness. Can it be also related to the fact that whatever task you're doing or whatever activity you're doing meets all the levels of the students? Because in one class you always have a variety of levels. So fairness is that it can meet all the levels, that all of them are capable of handling the matter, their performance, as you're saying.
Theoretically, if we have a mixed ability classes, so we have a problem in the placement test. Because supposedly the placement test is accurate in its scores, and consequently all that our classes are homogeneous, I mean for performance. But fairness also implies that I give my students with different abilities similar tasks, so each one of them does not feel unfair, because this may affect their performance. And the simple definition of fairness that nothing affects your scores except your performance. So no gender bias, no religion bias, no bias at all. So if I give you some sort of activities that suit different levels, I think this is part of fairness, as far as I understand the question. Yes?
If we're talking about the mixed abilities, you just mentioned that if we have a class that is mixed with abilities, it's related to the placement test. But still, people are, even if they are high level or medium or low, okay, they still have different abilities. Especially that if we're talking about activities, doing practical work, in that sense that people can do things, some people are more engaged, some people are less engaged, so if we're talking about abilities here, still varies.
But most of the students will be advanced, for example, so most of them are advanced or at advanced levels, so the activity is supposedly to be at this level, whatever their minor abilities are. This is what I understand. Yes,
I think Arnett means the level of the language itself, not the ability of the students. So sometimes we have a class of 35 students. For example, it's an intermediate class. However, we have some students upper intermediate level and some students elementary level in this so-called intermediate class. So
this is what I have just said. This goes with the placement test, which is not that much accurate in placing students according to the real levels of abilities. Because, for example, from my experience at EFC, it's supposedly that intermediate students, all of them are intermediate students. unless one or two of them has just pick answers chaotically, and otherwise all of them are on the same level of abilities. And when we design our assessment tasks, we cater for intermediate students, advanced students, and still some different abilities occur, but at the end of the day, all of them are intermediate, etc. Okay, thank you. So, now step number 2, dealing with the self. Any information about the self, CEFR? Okay. The self it stands for the Common European Framework of Reference, and is an internationally well-recognized framework that describes language ability nowadays in the world. That framework that is well recognized all over the world nowadays. All books, all curriculum that are well recognized are mainly based on the CEFR, and it's the framework that describes language ability across 6 levels, starting from A1 elementary and C2, which represents native speakers of the Turkic language. And this guideline is used as a reference nowadays for second language or foreign language syllabuses, teachers, and assessors. And supposedly that when we use or when we talk about language learning nowadays, we refer implicitly to the CEFR, which is the reference document all over the world, or in most parts of the world. The problem with the self is that we have different, we have that strong document. I'd like to show you the document, or part of it. Now this is an example of the document. The document describes in very detailed descriptions what each student at each level should be or should perform. So for example, here we suppose listening as a member of live audience. They describe what students at A1 level, which is very elementary, should have or perform. And A2, then B1, for example, can follow in outline straightforward short talks on familiar topics, provided these are delivered in clearly articulated standard speech. For B2, for example, can follow the essentials of lectures taught. This is a bit more difficult. And C1 can follow most lectures, discussions, debates. For C2, which is native speakers, can follow special lectures and presentation employing a high degree of colloquial regional usage or unfamiliar terminology. I mean that when putting this in mind, we can design our curricula, our syllabuses, according to the complexity of each level, and we can design assessment tasks to cater for these levels. And again, the problem with this, I have some materials to share with you about this grid of tables. And one technique to simplify the table is to collect all the descriptions with A1 together, A2 together, B1 together, B2, C1, C2, etc. And this is one of the best techniques advised when we design some syllabuses or some assessment tasks. The set consists of 3 perspectives. Perspective number 1 is called the community activities. What are the activities that we expect our students to perform? We have what we call reception activities, which mean listening and reading. And we have production activities, which means monologue, independent writing. And finally, we have interaction activities, which means dialogue, role plays, responding to emails or letters. And we have some linguistic features. And these linguistic features, like linguistic or sociolinguistic or pragmatic, are used to develop rubrics. And finally, we have communicative strategies, what each student can do to achieve the activities required. Step number 3, framework. This is a suggested framework for you if you would like to design task-based assessment in your classes. Number 1, we have mainly 2 skills, speaking and writing. And we should define the number of tasks. For example, I need 4 tasks in speaking, 4 tasks in writing, 2 tasks in speaking, 1 task in writing. This is your guideline to make sure that your assessment is valid. And this is the reference against which you can compare your task or your assessment. I have chosen that 1 task for speaking should be production, because this is one activity of the 7. So it's production, and mainly it is monologue. I will ask my students to give a presentation in the front of the class to assess their speaking performance or speaking abilities. And I have chosen 2 tasks for dialogue. I'll ask 2 or 3 students to play rules to assess whether they understand and respond to each other clearly or not. And I put time, for example, 1 minute for production, 1 to 2 minutes for interaction. And for writing, again, I have production. I ask the students to write an essay about a topic, or interaction, and this is very recent trend. I give them an email and ask my students to read the email and write a response or a reply to the email to assess the reading abilities and the writing abilities consequently. Again, I put sometimes 10 to 15 minutes for production and 30 to 40 minutes for integration, because they will read or listen, then they will write a response. I put some criteria according to the CEFR and the language, vocabulary, grammar, fluency, pronunciation, understanding, and response or interaction. And for writing, I put mechanics and coherence in the list. Step number 4, what we call sticks. Sticks are the guideline that we use to match the can-dos or the objectives. Can-dos mean the objectives or the outcome that I'd like to achieve with the task description, with the skills, with the speaking, writing, the units covered, time, criteria, marks. I urge every teacher who wants to deliver an authentic and valid task to have this grid of specs. I'll give you some examples now that you can use in your classrooms. Now, this is test specs about speaking. This is to assess my students' speaking. It's production. It means that it will be monologue, presentation, and there is no interaction between students. The can-dos accord is A1 level, which is very elementary, and according to the SIF, I have picked or chosen 2 can-dos. Number 1 can describe him or herself, what he or she does, and where he or she lives. The SIF again says that A1 level students can describe themselves, people, familiar places, and concrete situations. If you have a look to the can-dos, you can find some matching between both of them. Now, let's write together the task. Now, task description, monologue, because it's production, so it is monologue. For describing him or herself and what he or she does and where he or she lives, I suggest that students are given flashcards. This is the task description, how to write a task. Students are given flashcards, and each one is asked to describe or speak about people with various personal information. And for describing themselves and people familiar places, etc., students are given flashcards again that contain concrete situations, and each one is asked to tell a story describing events. Now, I give you this task piece, and these are real tasks used to assess students speaking. They are very easy to be developed, very authentic, because they may find it in their lives, and they are very valid because they are related to the can-dos according to the CFR. Now, students are given this flashcard. Describe the person in the following picture: name, nationality, age, job, hobbies, others. And to overcome the possibility of memorization, we do not give information. We cannot say, for example, name Anderson, because now the answers are memorized, are copied. So we have deleted the answers and give the space to students to create the lengthy answers and consequently to assess them accurately. Another activity by which we can assess speaking easily, that this story is called The Lost Boy. First, look at the pictures. I give some sort of story. Mrs. Sarah was talking with her friends when the little lamb ran after a butterfly. Now tell a story. This is very creative task that elicits my students' speaking abilities. And if I repeat the task, no typical answers could be gained because it's open-ended. You see? Now, this is an interaction task. According to the SIF, it's A1 again, students can ask and answer questions about themselves and other people. Where they live, people they know, things they have. So it is kind of personal exchange or personal meaning or information exchange. And can understand questions and instructions addressed carefully and slowly to him or her, and can ask people for things and give people things. So it's all about asking and answering questions, how to understand the questions and respond properly. It's a dialogue, of course, because it implies some sort of interaction, and students are given flashcards. Two learners interact with each other by asking and answering questions about simple and familiar situations or topics to elicit personal as well as specific non-personal information. And each learner is required to ask and answer 3 to 4 questions each. I have to define specifically how many turn taking are expected. Now this is again a very simple task that you can develop at your classes to assess your students' speaking. Now this is what Ali and Ola did yesterday. Now we will assess speaking ability through using past tenses. You know some information about Ali's activities, but you do not know about Ola's. So one students have some information about Ali and missing information about Ola with some questions, and the vice versa. And student number 1 will ask his or her colleague about what do 9, 11 yesterday. So here we assess whether they can form a question or not, and whether the second or the other students could understand the question and answer appropriately or not, because the answers are not in the same order of the questions. So they have to understand the question well to respond. And after this 3 or 4 questions, we can assess their speaking abilities, including understanding each other simply and accurately. This is for writing, it's B2. Now this is upper intermediate, it's very high level. And according to the students can write a review of a film, book, or play. And the typical task here has been to give them some information about a film, and they just copy the answers, putting them in some order of sentences, and this is film order. And we found another solution according to this grid or this table. We will ask students to watch a movie of 4 minutes, and then students are asked to write a review of 250 words on the film. So they will watch a video or a film for 4 minutes, and I ask them to review the film according to, for example, the characters, the plot, the theme, etc., which is more authentic and it's not copied from some information posted for them. And students can write an essay or report which develops an argument, giving reasons support or against a particular point of view, and explaining the advantages and disadvantages of something. Now, the task could be, students are asked to write an argumentative essay of 250 words. And again, these activities or these tasks are productive or production because there's no interaction between students and something written for them. For interaction, students can write letters conveying degrees of emotion and highlighting the personal significance of events and experiences, and commenting on the correspondence news and views of various options. It is integrated because they have to read something and then reply, and the task could be reading a featured article. I can say, for example, this is a featured article, and the editor writes the following. I write some notes or an article, a fixed, an imaginary article, and ask the students to respond accordingly. So, reading a feature article about an experience, students are asked to write a letter to the editor of 250 words, commenting on it, highlighting its importance and showing their feelings about it. Now, developing the tasks. Task-based assessment, or any task to be assessed, should be authentic. It means it could be found in real life, and communicative or interaction. So some sort of meaning emphasis is there. Meaning focused, and of course it should have an outcome. Now, the rubric is a simple table. It's a matrix of 3 components. Component number 1 is the criteria. The feature that I'd like to look into, it is according to the cipher again, it's linguistic. Grammar, range and control. And range means how various vocabulary students use while they are speaking or writing. And the control means how accurate and how correct their vocabulary or grammar is. Then appropriateness. And finally, pragmatic fluency, taking thematic development, coherence, flexibility. Then we put performance levels from 0 to 5, for example. And we describe each level as expected from students. And we can, if you go back to the SEF document, you can find some guidelines to develop rubrics. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.